So, Kath, we've talked about like the music and the concert, the theme, how you might program it, like where you put pieces, etc., etc. And then we've had a chat with Paul, the amazing arranger, you know, who can make pieces happen and make them possible for what we need them for, and even write new pieces like composed stuff. But then there's that big problem of actually getting somewhere to do the concert, you know, because it's, you know, you want an audience, don't you? So uh, let's meet Pippa, everybody. So let's say hello to Pippa. Hi, Pippa.
Hi.
And Pippa then takes over and gives us more ideas as well, with all the music we've got, and says, "Oh, how about this, etc., etc." And then starts to make the concert possible. So, what's the, like? You know, how do you make a concert happen? What do you do, Pippa? How do you do
Where
it?
do you start?
Yeah.
I think I suppose the first thing is looking at the venue and deciding what kind of venue you want to use for the concert. So it obviously depends on the size of the ensemble that you're doing, if it's a large symphony orchestra or whether it's a small chamber group. And then deciding, you know, what size of venue you want to go to, and therefore what you can do within that venue.
Now, you have to schedule things, like as in a rehearsal has to be this long and this long, and that must be really weird because you don't know how long things are going to take. I mean, it's how do you go about deciding that, Pippa? You know, how long you need for a rehearsal, what order you do it in, etc., etc. What do you do? How do you decide that?
Well, yes. So, I mean, schedules are very, very important. I am a lover of schedules, as both Owen and Kath will know. I do lots of detail, and it is really important. So you know exactly where everyone needs to be at any specific time. The schedules are really important. And so the things you need to think about is the order you're going to rehearse music in. And sometimes if you don't need all the musicians, maybe it's best to start with the piece that you need everybody for, and then you can slowly work down. So you end up, if you have a piece that only needs a couple of musicians, that's the last thing you rehearse. So people aren't hanging around, because musicians like to, you know, make sure they have time to do everything else. So they like to know exactly when they're going to be needed. And so then they're not hanging around too much. Although most musicians I know do like a biscuit and a cup of tea and are quite happy to have a break.
Do you know, Pippa, I have to say that not every person who organises concerts thinks about things like, oh, well, I'd like, and that, like, I mean, wasted time for anyone is like, oh, God, this is a waste of time. That's the last thing you want to do at any point in life, isn't it? But I have to say, a lot of people who organise schedules don't necessarily think like that. So that's a real good bit of advice for anybody out there that Pippa's just said, who's starting out, because it's nice for everyone who's working on something to be happy, isn't it? Essentially, there's other things, isn't there, Kath, that we all talk about together, like that can bring the concert to life more. Like Paul mentioned, whilst the music is the most important thing, there's loads of other things that you can do to bring the concert even more to life.
The lighting and the staging are so important to make the concert really engaging, especially for children. I mean, it's about, you can have the orchestra on stage, but the lighting, it's what makes it enjoyable to watch as well as to listen to. And, you know, seeing the musicians and being able to spot the ones that are playing because of whether you've got a spotlight them on them, or they're wearing a silly costume, or there's something going on, and movement, it's a really vital part of what we do. And there's a lot of fun we have coming up with all the various bits and pieces we do around that. That's the really fun part. Certainly my job is coming up with those things and thinking about them. And we've had some crazy ideas. Some of which get in, some of which are maybe a little bit too crazy, but we do have fun coming up with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, I suppose it's essentially keeping the audience, and for anyone at home who's going to try and do that, like keeping their senses like, oh look, oh there's something else, oh look, wow, look at that. Do you know what I mean? It's so even if it is just a light changes from red to blue, that really fits in with the music, that can help really set the atmosphere and wake people up even more, can't it, Pippa? So it's really important. But the props, I mean, and costumes. So some of the stuff.
Well, you've got one behind you.
Yeah. So little things at home. First of all, there's some big things I've got in the back here. So this is one of my favourite. So this is a rocket, which is looks a bit of repair work required on it. And that you might think, where am I going to get a rocket from? That's ridiculous. Well, you just never know where you're going to see things. Now, I saw that in a theatre, and it had been sitting there for 5 years. And I just asked the chap, one of the blokes at the back, said, "What's the deal with that? That's really cool." And he's like, "Oh God, we want to chuck it out, so I'll have it." So I just chucked it in the van. So he was cool with that. And then other things, though. So I'm saying, you never know what you might find lying around. For boys and girls at home, or anyone who's trying this, any adults are doing it, whatever. You can make your own props, can't you? And I'm not very good at this sort of thing. But I'm sure there's many people who are good. So, like, you can buy things, even just little things, like a hat like that. That makes quite a big difference. Suddenly, I'm nearly an elf. I'm more of an elf like that than I am like that. And then look, Kath, I mean, that could be another number of things, couldn't it? A fairy, a queen, lots of things.
Just what I've got handy.
A giant with a small crown on. It could be lots of things. And then, so you might think, again, though, if your budget, that means how much money you've got to spend, is £0, then you're like, okay, I need to make something. So this one here, this hat here, my wife made, Kate, and it's made of cardboard. It's just cardboard and some old material off an old tablecloth. And look, if I get it the right way, it's really uncomfortable because it's made of cardboard. It kind of hurts my head. But it's pretty cool, isn't it? So you can make stuff like that. And then over here, I'm pretty sure this is made from one of our friends at CCC, Emily, I think it was made for. And this is our chimney, our CCC chimney, which I won't get in it now because I'll drop my laptop, but you can get inside. So we've used this for loads of concerts over the years, and it's just made of, look, it's really cool. Cardboard, and then wood down here, and it's painted. So you can get creative and make your own thing. You make your own things to help bring your sort of concert to life. What's one of the favourite costumes or outfits you've seen, and one of the least favourite? I'm reckoning the least favourite could be all the same. I'm not sure.
I was just thinking about making things in the shark fin.
Yeah. I mean,
the shark fin. I mean, that has to be up there. So if people haven't seen the shark fin, it's a giant. I'm not sure what it was made out of, foam, I think.
Yeah.
Shark fin over a remote control car, which Ollie had a lot of fun operating. He was the chief operator of the shark fin, I think.
Yeah.
And it looked like a shark fin coming out of the stage.
And it would always break, wouldn't it, Kath? It would always break. It would always.
I do remember you picking it up.
And I'd have to pick it up, but it was funny. It was just really funny. So that's one of the favourites. Yeah, Pippa, have you got a favourite? Or
I think probably the ones it was for my first concert I did with CCC, actually, and it was when we did Three Little Pigs, and we had made these amazing pig heads.
Oh, yeah, they were
that kind of sat on top of your head, and there's a fantastic wolf's head as well, which we actually used again for Peter and the Wolf, and those are phenomenal. I mean, there was an awful lot of skill that was going into making those, but it was just amazing to be able to put it on, and it allowed musicians still to be able to play with them on, but it transported the audience to the story that we were telling, which was it was Three Little Pigs, Roald Dahl's Three Little Pigs, and then also we've used them for Peter and the Wolf as well. So those, I think, really were the ones that stand out for me.
Yeah, that's good. And it can be like, you might think sometimes, I mean, I think, God, this is an awful lot of effort to walk onto stage for 1 minute dressed as a fairy or dressed as a schoolgirl or something like ridiculous. Like, but it does, if it makes some people laugh for 1 second or makes them think, wow, this music really is like that. It's really like that. Then it definitely helps, and it is worth it. It's definitely worth it. I think making anybody laugh is worth it, pretty much. So it doesn't matter how much effort it is or little effort. You should try and do it at home. So the worst costume, I have to say, I would say as well at home, never be afraid to make a fool out of yourself. It's funny being silly and make a fool. But there's one outfit that myself and Ollie wore, which never again, when we dressed as aliens. That's all I'm going to say about it. Never again.
Owen, that is the only time you've said, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, that's it. No, I don't know whether it was being myself in that outfit or looking at Ollie in it, which made it worse. I think it was both. I think he would say the same as well. So, but you can. It's so much fun dressing. Who doesn't like a bit of fancy dress? I mean, it's great. You're never too old to do that. So if there's any adults out there who want to do this, you know, you got to go for it. You got to go for it.
I think the people who are organising concerts don't ever feel scared about asking the person who you're getting presenting to do these things, because if you've got someone like Owen, they never say no.
I had a bit of a flashback, Owen, Pippa, to I was trying to find the mask and snorkel because I was just reminiscing about our synchronized swimming.
Yeah.
Where we had, I mean, that's got to be a favourite, where we reenacted some choreographed synchronized swimming at the front of the stage with the brass and percussion members of our Essential Orchestra.
Do you know, Kath, I feel really bad now not putting that as one of my favourites, because
I know,
I'm actually thinking to how much I was laughing lying down behind and looking at there were 6 of us, I think, all very different sizes and builds, all dressed in silly outfits. Oh, that was fantastic. Maybe that's my favourite. It's impossible. There's so many good ones.
In actual fact, that was very simple. It was, we had just blue material across the stage and you were just behind it. So it's thinking about these things, and it's often a very simple way of doing them, but what you then see as an audience member is really effective. So these aren't super complicated ideas. They're just basic ideas that just really lift a concert to another level, and think about ways you can interpret the music and what's going on to make it engaging for the people who are watching.
And when we use props on stage, of course, whenever we make props, we always make them larger than life. And that's the thing, isn't it? To make them much bigger than they would be. So it's really effective and also really colourful and really bright.
Yeah, you have to remember that it has to be seen from right at the very back of the hall. So, the people at the back need to be able to see it as much as the people at the front. So, bright and cheerful and as large as possible.
And also as well, I mean, even little things, you can put a wig on. This has happened a lot, and I never thought this. I put a wig on, a big fluffy wig and a moustache, and afterwards, people in the audience will be like, was that you? Or was that somebody else? Do you know what I mean? So you never know. I don't think it's my acting. I think it's the costumes. So we've covered loads of stuff there. We've got our music sorted, our programme sorted. We've got venues to play at. We've got costumes. We've got props. Stuff to say about the music to bring it to life. So everybody at home or at school, wherever you're going to try this, think about all the things we said. Think about how you're going to present it. Like, are you going to do it to just your pet cat at home, which is cool, it's still an audience, or whether whoever you live with, you're going to set this up and perform it to them and do it with the computer with the music online, or whether you're going to play, or you can even do it in your school, couldn't you? You could do it in your school as a presentation to introduce other people to the music that you really like and the music you've found. And you never know, you could end up then, in a few years' time, being on the stage at the Usher Hall doing it with even more real musicians. So it could be amazing. So this is a great start to have a go at putting together your own little concert.